I'm Robert, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi. In order to be courteous to the Marina Center neighbors, we ask that you not park in the surrounding business parking lots because your car might be towed. Join us for fellowship before and after the meeting in front of the building, not in back, and help keep the area around the Marina Center clean by depositing cigarette butts, coffee cups, and other trash in the cans provided. Thank you for your support. Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday night speaker meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have identified myself as an alcoholic. Are there any other alcoholics present? How comforting. Do we have any new friends in their first 30 days of sobriety? And if so, please stand and tell us your name and the nature of your disease.
Rudy, alcoholic addict.
Rudy.
Jaime, alcoholic addict.
Jaime. Miranda. Norma.
My name is Curtis. I'm alcoholic.
All right, Curtis. Swell. Is there anyone here from out of town? And if so, please stand and introduce yourself. You all look like locals. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Since personal recovery depends upon AA unity, we ask that you please be quiet in order to give those seated near you a chance to hear the message. Thank you. It is a tradition in Southern California to read a portion of Chapter 5 entitled How It Works from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and tonight I have asked Rudy to read this.
High gloss. It's high gloss. It's a little short. As you all know, Rudy, I am an alcoholic and I am an addict. Chapter 5, How It Works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Where am I? Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided that you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find a softer, easier, softer way, but could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half-measured availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, We try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. Hello. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought.
We give chips at this meeting for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, and 9 months of continuous sobriety. Will the chip person please come to the podium?
Good evening. My name is Dave, and I am a true alcoholic. As stated, we give chips for various lengths of time, and we also give newcomer chips for those with 29 and less. Do we have any newcomers?
How'd you do it?
30 days.
Brett, alcoholic.
Drew, alcoholic.
60 days.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Dawn, and I'm an alcoholic.
Brandon, alcoholic.
Dawn. 90 days. There we go. Sit down like this.
Melissa, alcoholic.
All right, Melissa. 6 months. And 9 months. And thank you for letting me be of service.
I took my will back already, and I didn't know it because I skipped over the 12 traditions, and tonight I have asked Curtis to read these for us. Oh, come on, it's fun. It's fun to do it my way. It works.
My name is Curtis, and I'm alcoholic. 12 traditions. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on AA unity. 2, for our group purposes, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible for those they serve. 9, Alcoholic Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name never ought be drawn into public controversy. That was 9, 10. 11. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles for personality.
It is a tradition at this meeting to give a cake with a candle for each 365 days of continuous sobriety. In order to save time for our speaker, we ask those taking cakes to limit their thanks to under 2 minutes. Tonight, we have 4 birthdays. Do we do it here that we just sing once or one for? First birthday is for, yeah, I'm picking up. Dana for 4 years. Jeffrey and Kelly will give her cake. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dana. Happy birthday to you. Keep coming back.
My name is Dana. I'm a grateful alcoholic. Thank you, Jeffrey and Kelly, special people to me, like you all are. I know without you guys, I couldn't do this. I haven't been drunk for 4 years. That's amazing. And that's what I did at the end of my drinking, just get drunk. No fun anymore. I mean, most of my drinking was a lot of fun. It was like Disneyland, you know, with thrill rides and scary rides and all the good stuff. And towards the end of my drinking, the police broke through my front door. I was standing there in my underpants, my socks, and I hadn't shaved for a week and had a gun in my hand. And my wife had called them up and told them that I was armed and dangerous. And my plan was to shoot her dog because every time I passed out, it peed on me. And that's so I thought I had the right to kill this little dog, and you know, that's how crazy I was. And today I love the little dog, so things are a little better. Things have really got better being sober. It's a miracle, it's a gift, and still today, you know, if I walk past the mirror and I see my reflection and I see my step is a little bouncy and I'm feeling a little well with myself, you know, that's when I drop to my knees and I thank God for being sober. Thank you.
Next birthday is for Justin for 5 years, and Dave will give him his cake.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Justin. Happy birthday to you. Keep coming back.
Justin, alcoholic. Funny the cake says Benny on it. Happy birthday, Benny, wherever you are. Congratulations to the Chip people, and happy birthday to all the other birthday people. And I want to thank Dave for giving me the cake. I think he was more nervous than I was. I asked him to give me the cake, and he said, do I have to say anything? And then he said, no, you got to go get the cake and carry it to me, though. I used to sponsor Dave, and then he moved to the Valley and got a girlfriend. So we broke up, and we're just friends now. But I think he's single again, right? You're single? Yeah, he's single again. Anyway, I'm really grateful to be here today. I'm really grateful to be here today, and that we have a program outlined here on the wall, which I follow. I have a sponsor. I work the steps. I try to read out of the book every day. I go to meetings every day. What it was like for me at the end was I was waking up in heroin withdrawal every day, and I would actually walk from my house to the 7-Eleven and panhandle the bums who had panhandled me for enough change to get like a beer to get well, so I could get to the $39 a night crack motel that I was working at. And well, I would relieve the day shift guy who was a speed freak, and I would take over and steal out of the till to get a hold of the connection. And then on my free time, when I wasn't nodding out, I was impersonating a Russian doctor and calling in prescriptions all over San Diego. And this is Dr. Yomansky. It was brutal. Anyway, so I'm so grateful to be here today. I have to remind myself like how cool it is to wake up and just like not be dope sick and be able to walk to the Marina Center and like that's enough for today. So thank you.
Next is for Ben for 5 years, and Terry and Michelle will give the cake.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ben. Happy birthday to you. Keep coming back.
Good evening, I'm Benny. I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. Thank you for being here tonight, participating in recovery. 5, wow. They say this is the part where your head pops out of your ass. Big job. But it happened. Oh, yeah. Drank and used for 30 years. I come from a background filled with that. I did both of those things professionally, if you know what I mean, for 20 years. I finally surrendered for reals because I was dying. And perhaps the only thing that was missing is that I forgot to lay down because it was over, man. And if you are new, I hope that you have the gift of desperation. And if you are new, do what is suggested. Get a sponsor. Read the first 164 pages. Work the steps. Find somebody who has something that you want and need and reach out to them. Come to know a God of your understanding. And yes, it is tough. There are things around here we don't want to do. But if you think this is tough, remember what it's like. Remember what the alternative is. It pales in comparison. This is doable. Look around. And if you have some time, one of the gifts that I got from somebody who took the time, who works a serious program, works with others, has what I want, has always put their hand out to me. I can lean into this man and count on him from time to time. When I'm troubled, he'll give me answers. And if you got time, the only thing you can do that is detrimental around here is to pick up or use. And if you can stay away from that, then no sweat. The rest is for the taking. Thank you.
Last birthday tonight is for Simon for 17 years, and Dave will give him his cake. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Simon. Happy birthday to you. Keep coming back.
Simon, alcoholic. Hi, Simon. Dave, thanks for giving me the cake. And I met Dave here 2 years ago. I came to this meeting 2 years ago. I just had hip surgery, and I lived down the road, couldn't go anywhere. This is as far as I could drive, and came to this meeting at noon, and I've been coming ever since. And congratulations to all the cake people and the newcomers. The newcomers that's the lifeblood of our program. I love the newcomers. It's like they remind me of where I came from. It's And I like to remember that. And, you know, the time I always like to say this on my birthday because it does remind me of where I came from. And I got sober the 19th of August, 1989 in Canoga Park at the Hole in the Sky. And my last drink was actually on the 18th of August in the evening. And I went to my store, and on the way to work, I normally go past a friend of mine's store and that used to do work for me and take a drink on my way to work just to start the day. And a nice cognac and some hot, strong coffee, and that I used to start the day with. By lunchtime, I was already shaking. Luckily, my store was in a good location right across the road from the liquor store. So I went across there, bought myself a nice bottle of vodka and started lunch with, you know, liquid lunch. And that's how it progressed. But on the 18th of August, I went home and something happened. And I went to work the next day and I said, like I always used to say, no, I'm not going to drink today. You know, just today, I'm not going to drink. But something happened and I looked through the yellow pages for a place that helps alcoholics. And I didn't know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I saw this thing in the yellow pages, Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm like, wow, what's that all about? And it has central office's phone number, and I called them, and they said to me, you have a meeting right down the road, 2 blocks from your store. I said, oh, really? Yeah, the Hole in the Sky is just on the corner of Topanga and Sherman Way. It used to be there. And I walked into the rooms there at 6:30 meeting. There were a bunch of Harley Davidsons parked outside. I'm like, no, this is not for me, man. I'm a business person. I'm in a suit. You know, I don't mix with Harley boys. Anyway, I walked into the meeting. There was all leather and boots and all kinds of stuff. And this woman spoke that evening. She was the speaker. She was 6'6" and 6'6" wide, and she was wearing leather. And she was wearing leather, and she was a truck driver. And I related what she said, you know. I related to what she said. And I heard the message. I don't know, I was lucky. I heard the message from day one. And I got a sponsor that night, and he walked me through the steps, and I stayed sober and kept coming back and did the things that he told me to do. He used to tell me, stay in the meetings until the end of the meeting because you might miss the message, man. You might miss the miracle. Go to 90 meetings in 90 days because you're going to hear, that's when the miracle is going to happen, and you don't know. It might be one of those, you don't know which day it'll be. It'll be one of those days in 90 days and 90 meetings. So I kept coming back, and I was lucky. I stayed, never had to go out again and, you know, experiment. And I've seen people come in and out, and it doesn't look like a pretty sight to me. So for the newcomers, just stay around the program and keep coming back and listen to your sponsor.
This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Tommy L.
Hello, I'm Tommy. I'm an alcoholic. Thank Dave for asking me. Dave's asked me over the last few years to come speak at the Marina Center, and I've never been here. You know, and I came. I finally was available to do it. He'd always ask me like 6 months in advance, and still at this time, 6 months in advance is like 50 years in advance. I can't plan it. But he called, someone dropped out, he said, can you come? And I go, yeah, and I came down last week because I'd never been here, wanted to make sure I was here. And some guy was causing a disturbance in the back, and they asked him to leave. And then as the speaker was speaking, the guy came flying through the front door, right? And nobody moved. It was no big deal. And I thought, I love these people. This is my kind of sobriety, man. You know, it's these are the rooms that I got sober in. You know, I came by my alcoholism the correct way. I'm Irish Catholic. All right, I was one of 8 children where the father never worked and the mother always prayed, and it always seemed that alcohol was our common denominator. You know, as a child, alcohol was around every event that we had. If someone was born, you'd have drinks. If someone died, there was drinks. If someone got divorced, there were drinks. If someone got arrested, there was drinks. Everybody had drinks all the time. And on my first recollection of alcohol and my relationship with it happened on my first Holy Communion, which is a religious ceremony in our faith, and I was 7 or 8 years old, and I'm wearing my brother's hand-me-down suit, which is always too big, and I immediately didn't feel like I fit in. You know, that was just part of my story. I didn't fit in anywhere. And I'm sitting at this party at the house, and there's nuns and priests and neighbors and everybody walking around drinking, and I remember I could just see like their feet, like a Peanuts cartoon. I just saw knees and feet. I was a little guy, and my father comes up to me and he hands me this glass of whiskey, like 4 fingers of whiskey, and he says, "Congratulations, son." And I take it and I drink the way that everybody I'd ever seen drink in my house, just straight back, like that. Now, I feel it going down. I can remember it to this day, and I am far north of 7 years old at this point, but I feel it coming down, and it's warming, and it's warming, and it's warming, and then boom, I'm on the floor, because it just knocked me out. And I look up, I just see feet around me again, and I look up, I raise my head just enough so I can vomit on my oversized suit, and I'm sitting there in the middle of this party, and nobody says anything, and nothing stops, and I'm like, cool, I like this alcohol. And that started a nice run. You know, when in the family I grew up in, alcoholism was part of it. You know, we were that poor family on the block. We were the one that's lawn was never right. That at the holidays, you know, the nuns and charity groups would leave baskets of food there for you, and they'd always run off. And I even knew then that I felt bad about that. I knew that wasn't right. There, in our house, you know, there was yelling and screaming all week. There was cops on Saturday night, and there was church on Sunday morning. And that's my memories of childhood. And it was just the way it was, you know, but I knew that I felt different then and I felt a part of. You know, when I had to go and see my mother, remember she was buying groceries one time, and a lady yelled into it a check on food stamps. And it was the first time I realized that we were living on the government, you know, and it was hurt. That hurt. I felt ashamed. I felt great shame. And I knew then that I needed something to make me feel part of. And alcohol was it, man. When I drank, I felt okay. I didn't feel like the clothes didn't fit, were ill-fitting on me. I felt that I could talk. I felt that I was like smart. And I knew also that money was something that I needed to get. You know, I understood that I believed my parents were divorced because of money. I believed that everything was a problem because of money. And I was an industrious guy. I do believe alcoholics of my type, which this room seems to be full of, when we're not drinking, we are smart people, man. We got a plan. And this brain plans. I plan better than anything else I do. So I'm a little kid making my $6 a week on a paper route, running around. I grew up in Los Angeles, you know, running around. And this just wasn't cutting it. You know, $6 a week, even back then, just wasn't making enough. So underneath that, I met a guy, and underneath my papers, I'd have kilos of pot. See, and I'd be riding around, and I'm dropping off pot to my guy at Fairfax High, and I'm riding over to Hollywood High, and I'm making to Beverly Hills High, and I'm 11, 12 years old at this point, and I'm an entrepreneur. In no way am I a criminal. I'm an entrepreneur. And my great influence at that time, my great kind of philosophical influence, was the movie Superfly. Okay, and what I learned, and none of you have seen that movie, what I learned from it was don't use your own product. So great, that was my MBA. And but on the weekends I would drink, you know, and I remember drinking always felt good, and I felt good. Now I had a little money in my pocket. I was throwing a little money to my mother. I was kind of like the man. And then a great event happened to me. You know, I was. You grew up in California, that you have what they call a towhead, a little blonde-haired, white-haired kid, and that's what I was. And around this time, I'm selling weed to all the fellas and all that, and I get jumped into a gang. I am the only member of a certain gang, which I will not mention, that was all Latin, and I was the white guy, and they let me in. And I guarantee you it wasn't because I was tough, it's because I had the best weed anybody had. And I started running with these guys, and you know, it wasn't like the gangs today, but we did get into trouble, and I started finding myself in the back of cop cars. And the weird thing now that I look back on is nobody thought it was different. You know, nobody thought it was just like, hey, he's one of these kids, he's running around, he's 14, 15 years old, little harmless trouble, what's he going to do? You let him out. They throw you in the car, they scare you, then they kick you out, and you go home, and you're supposed to tell your mother, and of course I never told her, and she never asked because I was giving her money from my side occupation that I had going on. And you know, my father had left since then, I hadn't seen him much, and life was a little hectic. You know, I was basically running the streets wild as, you know, as a very young kid, but I knew that I wanted something more out of life. I knew it. I got out of high school, had no idea what to do, but I knew I better get an education because I don't know anything. And this kind of pot dealing thing goes away. Once you turn 18, you know, you don't want to be doing that kind of thing. You either step it up a notch and go on to other things, which will take you to jail, or you got to leave it alone. And so I, registered in college, a local junior college. I didn't have good grades because I guess if you went to school, you could get good grades, but if you never showed up, they kind of gave you bad grades. And I registered within 5 years. Within 1 year, I registered in 5 junior colleges in LA. Because I'm a great starter. I go that first day and I got my shirt on, I'm ready to go, and I'm signing up for history, and I'm signing up for physics, and I'm signing up for everything, and I'm like got all the books and everything because I stole them, but I got everything, and I'm ready to go. And then the next day I don't want to go because I'm up doing whatever I'm doing all night, and so I don't go, and then I'm too embarrassed to go the second day, and by the third day I hate that school. It wasn't where I wanted to go, so I go register over at Valley College over the hill. And I had this pattern where I would start things. I always started things and I didn't finish anything. So through a circuitous events, various events, I needed something I needed to feel part of. And I found myself going to the Santa Monica Civic down there. I wanted to work in television for some reason or make films. That's what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to do it for any love of the art. I didn't have the consciousness of that. I wanted to do it because that was something that seemed to be, they made a lot of money. They traveled a lot. They worked all the time. They were happy. And I wanted part of that, man. And I snuck on, there was some big rock show going on at the Santa Monica Civic, and I snuck in there. I lied to the guy and said I was delivering something to whatever, and I got in. I remember seeing the stage all lit up, and dancers and actors and people on. I thought, it hit me, man. It was like the circus. I was going to join the circus, and I was going to go run with it. And I went there, and I was good at it, because we are good workers. Again, when we are sober, we work. And I started sweeping stages and started doing this and that, and they liked me there, and people hired me. They started hiring me to work as what they call a gopher. I was the executive in charge of whatever anybody wanted. I had to go get it, and I was cool with it, and I was good with it, and I loved it. And I wasn't drinking that much, just to still a little wine with the fellas. So things go on, and now I'm drinking on the weekends, because now I'm kind of hanging out with what I call adults. Still no major trouble. But then the day comes, a couple years later, I'm working for this big rock promoter, and I'm good at my job, and he says, Tom, I want to talk to you. I said, yeah, what's up? He goes, you've been doing a good job for us. I go, great, good, I'm happy to hear it, I like it here. And I'd never had a real job before this except the paper route, so I didn't know what a job was, but they were nice to me, and they paid, and it was cool. And he said, we want to give you a promotion. We want to make you talent coordinator. I said, great, what do they do? Well, when the rock bands come into town, you meet them, you take them to the clubs, you hang out with them, and then you just make sure they get to the show. I said, I think your show, I'm thinking to myself, I still don't get this. And then my boss says, and here, take this, and he hands me an American Express card. Oh yeah, a few of you know. Now, my job is to take bands out, and this is in the early 80s, right, where everybody is stoned. I'm working on Sunset Strip. My offices are on Sunset in New York, and I get to go wherever I want, and it's all paid for. And my job is to make sure everybody's happy. It was heaven. Cocaine wasn't addictive. There was no other things out there. It was a great time, man. And I rocked it. I rocked it. I was good at my job, and I was good at partying. I always made it everywhere. But I crossed that line. I believe that time I crossed that line. It wasn't just drinking on the weekend or just getting a little hungover or something. This was every night, 3-4 bottles of wine, some champagne, off to see the Coke Man. Everybody's taken care of. And it was like, it was a party, and you take this poor little kid who had nothing, and now I thought of myself as the king of Sunset Strip, and that's what it was, and it was heaven, man. I thought God came down and just made me a saint. I couldn't imagine anything better in my life. So, as I do, I end up and I go get married, right? I have a beautiful young lady that I met, and, I knew her since she was 17 and I was 18, and, 5-6 years went on, it was time to get married. And, she's Latina, and, I'm Irish Catholic, as I said earlier, so we get down to doing what we do. We started having babies. So, we had 4 babies in 5 years, and it was just boom, just went like, whoa. And I remember, she should have known. She does say to me now, she should have known something. When on our honeymoon, I had this job with this, this rock promoter guy. I was still working for him, and he couldn't make it out to my wedding for whatever reason. And of course, I took that as a personal affront, because anything that happens on the planet is about me. There's nothing else. It's about me. And so on our honeymoon, I said, okay, pack, we're going. She goes, what do you mean we're going? I go, well, we're going. Time to leave. I cut the honeymoon like 2 days short. We were in Hawaii, and, I had a good job, and it paid well. And I think about a week after we got back home, I finally told her, I quit my job. She said, what? I just said, well, I quit my job because I'm going to go start my own thing. Now, I had not had a job except this job and the paper route, okay? Couldn't go back to the paper route. But she did say that should have been the time she should have known to cut and run, but she didn't. And so, you know, I went and I started my own thing, and I'm producing my own shows, and I'm doing what I got to do, and I'm doing pretty well at it, and life's good. You know, we're making a little money, we buy a little house, my first son is born, and it's just, you know, it's beautiful. It's everything that I had imagined in life. I was always imagining what your life was like, because your life was the beautiful home. You come home from work, there's a nice dinner there, you visit with your wife or your husband, you play with your kids, you throw catch in the backyard, things that I had never done, but that's what I imagined it was. My reference to what a perfect life was television. It was Leave It to Beaver. It was Ozzie and Harriet. It was, I wanted that, man. I wanted that. I didn't want the cops coming to my home. I didn't want that activity. And so I had it now. You know, I have these, second boy shows up, and beautiful little boy, but there's something's happening now, is that I'm now staying out later. I'm staying out every night. I'm drinking now. I'm drinking wine at lunch. I'm now drinking in the evening. I'm starting to get distant from my wife. As you know, we all know our relationships start falling apart. The third son comes home, right? And this is now, I'm now 29 years old, and I have 3 children and a wife. My third son comes home. My wife's asleep. We just get her home from the hospital. There's a little nanny nurse with her taking care of the other 2. They're down. I pour out some Coke on the table. I'm having a drink. I'm snorting lines. I just know that feeling that we've all felt. When we all know that feeling of incredible loneliness and that feeling of desperation, like the whole world's going on, but why aren't I part of it? Why isn't it connecting for me, man? None of it's fitting. Why do I feel so, I hate myself at this point. I reach for the phone. I'll never forget this. I reached for my phone. I dialed the one person I know to call. It's a person I haven't talked to in 10 years. I call my father. I call him up. I said, Dad. He goes, hey, Tom, how are you? I go, good. I go, man, I'm not doing too good. You know, we just had another baby, and I'm kind of stressed out, and if life isn't working. He says, oh, son, you're just working too hard. Have a drink and relax. It'll all be okay. I was like, way to go, Dad. So I'm off and running. But I know at this point there's a problem. You know, at this point, a fourth son shows up. I don't even know if I'm there for it or not. You know, I remember going into it. The things that I've done as an alcoholic, as an active alcoholic, are despicable. You know, I remember being in that hospital room, and my heart's pounding fast, and she's having the baby, and I'm sweating. I can see those nurses looking at me. They were like those people who looked at me with food stamps and stuff. There's something wrong with me. They know. People know when I'm 70 pounds lighter than I am now, when I'm shaking, when I'm asking the same question twice. They know there's something wrong with us. We don't hide. I don't hide anything from anybody. And I'm sick, and I get home, and my wife's now not talking to me. The jobs start getting fewer. You know, the phone doesn't ring. Nobody picks up when you dial. And at this point, I'm making my living as a comedy writer, and I'm now selling jokes in the back of the Comedy Store for $20 a joke. You know, I got 4 kids at home, and I'm hustling jokes to comics. And the deal was if they worked, they'd pay, and if it didn't work, they didn't. And you know, the money I'd make, my $100 that night, I'd go buy some blow with, or I'd go get drunk with, and just go home and be, oh my God, where am I now? And I'm sick. I'm very sick. And it gets to a place where it's just not. It is over for me. And you know, my wife. She sees this, and she's a woman with 4 children wondering what is happening. You know, my last 3 years of drinking and using were consistent with me waking up late, looking in the mirror, my eyes watering, my nose running, and me going, God, please don't let me do this again. I always had a belief in God. But the God I believed in was going to fry me for something I did when I was 4 years old. There was no backing out of it, right? He was just going to zap me and take me out. That was the God, fearful God. And I would just look, and I'd go to some office that I had, some little dump, and I'd move paper from left to right, and I'd try to do some work. Then I'd go to lunch for just a glass of wine, just to take the bite off. And then I'd go back and move that paper from right to left, and then I'd go drink with lower companions because it was a business dinner, you know. And I could hear the silence on the end of the phone when I called my wife saying, look, I can't be home tonight. I got to go out and take care of business. Then I'd drink cheap wine until 10 or 11 at night, and then I'd go see the dope man. And I'd do my Coke all night long, and at 5 in the morning, that light would come up, and those birds would sing, and I'd go, God, don't let me do this again. And that's how I lived. I lived like an animal for those 3 years. And it was over. I pulled up to my house one time, it's Christmas Eve, and I saw this Mike's Heating and Plumbing truck in front of my house. And I walk up there, and the guy's handing my wife an invoice for $9,000 because the water heater broke out. And there was no way I could deal with that. There's no way I could put $900 together. I probably didn't have $100 on me. And that look on her face that we do to our loved ones, it was unbelievable. So I'm basically toast at this point. She finds this little particular group to hang out with, Al-Anon. Now, Al-Anon, I love Al-Anon. I love Al-Anon. I had a very difficult introduction to it because it was, you know, I'm sensitive and they weren't that sensitive to me, but But I love Al-Anon. I do say Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life and Al-Anon saved my family. And that's, it's a great thing. But anyway, so she started going there, and she came to me and she said, we have to do something about your problem. We still couldn't talk about it in our house. And I said, oh, I ain't got no problem. She says, you got to go see this psychiatrist. He was an addiction specialist. And so they take me down there. He's down by the airport, and I'm still trying to call the shots. And I said, look, you go in and tell him whatever you want to tell him. Then you come out. Then I'm going to go in. I'm going to tell him what I'm going to tell him, and then he's going to tell us what we're going to do. And I remember her look like, oh, man, anything, just get him somewhere. So they get me down there. We walk in, and she goes in to do her thing. The next thing I see is the doctor waking me up because I passed out in his lobby. And he's like shaking me up. And of course, you know, us alcoholics, we'll play off anything. I jump up. Yeah, what's up? What's up? Okay, I was working late. We go into his room. He shuts the door behind me. I turn to him. I go, Doc, we got to do something about that crazy bitch. And I use that word, crazy bitch out there. She's raising my 4 children. And he looks at me, and I look like death. He's going, oh, my God, you are sick. I went and saw this man 3 days a week for 6 months. I do not remember it at all. I don't remember it. And then one day they came to me and they said, you know what, buddy? But what he did do is he did make me go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I went to my first meeting of the Jack Lomas Men's Stag in the Valley. And I'm out there, and I'm outside like a newcomer because that's what we do. And I'm late because that's what I do as a newcomer. I show up late, and I'm not going in anywhere quick. I want to suss it all out, and he's waiting, and he brings me in. And I walk into the room, and for the first time in my entire life, since I took that drink as that little first communion boy, I felt peaceful. And the reason I felt peaceful was that I walked in and some guy was talking about how he just lost his job, and everybody was laughing. Another guy was talking about how he just got thrown out of his house by his wife. Everybody's laughing. Another guy just lost his house because he couldn't make the mortgage. That put the place into hysterics, man. And I'm like, I love these people, man. They're going to think I'm a hit here, right? I got all that and more going on. So I go there, but I forget that very vital thing that newcomers, we need to know. You can't drink between meetings. See, I forgot that. I went there, went back to my fellas, got drunk and high, and tell them about all this great thing called AA. And as they're chopping and drinking and stuff, they're going, great, Tommy, you need that. And we're all getting high and stuff. So it goes on and on and on. And then finally they go, okay, you're going away somewhere. We're sending you away. So they send me off to Betty Ford. And I'm like, oh, my God, how am I going to get out of this thing? Because I don't want to go. You know, being the Catholic that I am, we don't talk to people. You know, when we do our confessions or whatever, we're in a little room. There's a curtain between us and the priest behind it. He's sworn to silence by like 2,000 years of doctrine. He ain't going to say nothing. And besides, I've never told the truth in confession in my life. I could have murdered somebody, and I'd go and say, yeah, Father, I missed Mass last Sunday. Okay, you got 5 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers. You're cool, right? So I'm not a talker about what's going on. They take me down to Betty Ford, and I'm like, oh, my God, I know there's psychiatrists and shrinks. This is going to be a problem. So we pull up there. And we are broke at this time. I mean, you can imagine 4 little kids and stuff, and I haven't worked in 2 years. It's ugly. We pull up there, and the first thing they said to me, this is the spirit of recovery, the first thing they said, cashier's check or cash? I'm like, dude, I am so going back home because ain't nobody got, I think it was $7,500. Ain't nobody around me got that kind of money. My wife looked like Superman. Bam! There it was, a cashier's check. And I'm looking, where'd she get that? And they're taking me away. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I can't be having this thing. And there I go. I'm in there. And I'm in there, and the first week they're asking me all those questions. And like I said, I haven't told the truth since I could learn how to talk, man. And they know I'm lying. I know I'm lying. And everybody won't let me lie, and it sucks, all right? I don't want to tell nobody anything. The second week, they get me reading the big book. You know, they take you... You read that, I'm like doing that and going to 3 or 4 meetings a day. I'm like, okay, it's a little peaceful. I'm starting to eat regularly, you know. I'm getting like healthy. My skin is now losing that really cool orange glow that it had. And it's going back to like kind of pale. And then, you know, the 3rd week I do the first 5 steps they take you through. And then the 4th week I'm a spiritual giant and I'm going to take over for Bill Wilson. I'm running things now because that's what I do. And I head out the door and there's my wife and she says, how you doing? And I said, I'm doing okay. I said, I just think I'm going to have a little champagne at Christmas. And she just let it go, right? We go home. And I didn't want to drink, man. I didn't want to drink. When you've had when you've had to have your 4 children have Thanksgiving dinner with you in an institution, you know, there's no joke in that, man. These are 4 little babies running around their dads and, you know, hospital bands and hanging out in this place. It ain't cool. You know, your wife's got to drive 2 hours every weekend to do the family thing and all that. It ain't cool. There was nothing cool about it. And I get out, and I don't want to drink anymore, man. I just want to stop because I felt good for a minute there. I felt good with you people. I was surrounded by AA people. I felt good. And I'm driving home from work one day. I wasn't really working. I was going to a place where I'd look for work, you know. So and I'm driving home. I'm going, God, please don't let me turn. You know, my house was to the right. The dope man was to the left. Please don't let me turn this car. Please don't let me turn this car. Next thing I know, I'm out there again. And that's how I spent my next year, getting 30, 60, 90 days and going out. That is worse than the drinking that I was doing before. Because the big book talks to us about there are those of us that are incapable of being honest with ourselves. And that was me. I could not be honest with myself. Goes on, I get to that corner again that we all got to get to, where I get up one day, and I say to my wife, I go, I went out again. Now, I expected her, because I was being honest with her, to say, oh, I love you, we're going to beat this, it's all going to go great. She looks at me with that Al-Anon kind of look that says, I go, I've been out again. She goes, you do it again, don't come home. And I knew she wasn't kidding. There was no joke in that game, man. And I went to my sponsor. I had a sponsor this time, this Polish guy, who I've only started to understand, like, 15 years later, but you know, he mumbles stuff and say things. And I said, look, you know, I didn't know if I wanted to get sober or I wanted to get high. And that was it. There was no other choice in my life. I knew what I could do, like my father had done and those before me, and that was a choice, or I could get sober. And I asked him, I said, point out blank, what do I have to do? He says, you're so sick, you have to go to 3 meetings a day. I immediately thought what a busy guy I am. I haven't worked in 5 years, but I'm a busy guy. I can't do that. I go, okay. And God gave me the strength to go, okay. He goes, you got to be a service. You know, you're a selfish guy. There was a little guy in our group with a wheelchair. And so I'd have to go pick him up. And he lived in some ghetto way out down Lancashire. And every time I drove by there was these gangsters that were just looking at me. I had a convertible. I thought they were going to shoot me, right? Those were probably left over from my days in the park. They didn't recognize me, you know. I didn't have a tow head anymore. And I would take him. He was in a wheelchair. I would throw him in the car, and I'd throw the wheelchair back there. And he'd be bouncing around. We'd be driving in the valley, going to meetings. I did that every day for 6 months. And he told me I got to pray. I said, I pray? He says, no, you pray for stuff. You're going to pray in the morning, ask God to keep you sober, and at night you're going to thank him for keeping you sober. I'm like, okay, that's what I'll do. And I said, you know what, John, you got to help me out a little bit. He goes, what's that? He goes, well, you know, at home, my wife, she's, you know, a little testy, a little angry, you know. Something about no paycheck, 4 kids, and guy coming in and out, going out of places. We give me some of that sponsor stuff to say to her, smooth it out a little bit. You know, I'm on the right track. And he just shook his head. He says, you can only say, good morning, I love you, and good night, I love you. Do not say anything else, answer any questions she has. I go, wait a minute, I'm a writer. I hadn't written anything in 5 years, but I'm a writer, and I got good things to say. Don't say anything other than that. And that was my life for 3 years. That's what I did, the meetings, and that was, communication was that. And I consider myself one of the lucky guys. I was able to save that marriage. You know, I was able to, because of Al-Anon, she and I have a great life together. I went on, I did what was asked of me, and I continued going to meetings, and I went through the steps, and I went through them all, and I didn't just do 1 and 7 and then back to 3 and up to 10. I went through them in the order they were laid out, and it took me 2 years to get through them because I couldn't read. You know, when you make a living as a writer and you can't read, there's a problem. It was just I was bouncing. I couldn't hold that book. Did all of that stuff, was of service, started sponsoring people, started doing the things that are required of us to stay sober. It's no secret how we get sober. It's no miracle. The miracle is that we actually do it, that our minds aren't so warped and so twisted, as it talks about in our book, that we turn ourselves over to a power greater than ourselves who gives us the strength to follow what's outlined as a program of living so we can enjoy this great life that we are all entitled to. That's what we have to do. There's no gray area around it. I do all these things. We get it. About 3 years sober, my sponsor says to me, he says, hey, you got to go, you're married. I go, yeah, I'm married, but, you know, because I'm out every night. I'm now Mr. AA, running around like a nut all over the place. He goes, well, maybe you want to talk to your wife. I go, whoa, no. It's been working really cool not talking to her. You know, I don't want to bring up any of that old stuff. But he said, you know what? You got to start taking her out once a week. Wednesday night, that's your date night. I don't want to see you at a meeting. I'm like, oh, God. And that became, yet again, another lesson of how do I be with my wife as a human, not as somebody that's always taken. And we did that. And to this day, we still do that. Wednesday night, if I'm in the country or in town, that's what we do. We go, and it'd be something as simple as walking down the street to have dinner or going to a movie, but we're together. You know, those 4 boys have put us through, they put us through hell. They put us through hell. I'm telling you. I mean, God love them. I love those 4 boys. And then for some reason, we ended up with a girl in the mix, too. She came along somewhere. She was adopted, and she showed up. My wife called me. I was in New York. She said, we're going to have a girl. I said, I thought we were done with all that. And she says, we are. This one's 15. Her mother had passed away, and she came to live with us, you know. And so I got these kids, and it's cool, though. It's good. I'm able to go back to work. I'm able to start writing again. I'm able to start doing what I do. People aren't looking at me afraid of me anymore. They're actually listening to me, and I'm good at what I do. You know, I'm good at it, and I work hard at it. And the boys come along. They're just perfect and wonderful. And then about 14 years old, they just go crazy. My two of my sons, are the two most famous underground graffiti artists in Los Angeles. Now, I don't know how many of you get called down to the city attorney's office to discuss your son's talent, but yeah, that was me. But you know what? They were raising hell, and they're smoking and drinking and banging and doing what they do. And I had asked my oldest son, I had to say, you know what, you can't live here anymore. This is my oldest son. It's nearest, dearest. And I said, son, I love you. I will always love you, but you can't be smoking weed and doing that in this house, so you have to leave. And that was painful. When you have to ask your child to leave your house, that's painful. But God gave us the strength to do that. A year later, he got into an accident surfing where he cut his head wide open, and he had to come home. You know, he had to heal up at home. And after 4 days at home, he said, Dad, do you mind if I come back? I said, well, you know the rules. He said, I know the rules. I said, cool, you come back. Kid spent a year with us. He's now this next week, he starts at Otis Art Institute. He took photographs of all that graffiti, and they let him go into that school. I'm like, whoo, sweet. I said, you know, I know it's an honest program, but if you can avoid the city attorney experience, I think that might help you. You know, my second son, we had to put him on a plane. It's one of my wife's most painful moments. He had to go to one of those camps off in Utah because he just was incorrigible. None of my kids were violent, but they were hellraisers, man. And he had to go to those places. They took him to Utah. We let him go and put his care totally into other people for 6 weeks or 7 months. I don't know what it was. He was gone. And then we had to get him back. And then it still didn't work, so he had to go do a semester away at school in India. This kid's been in every school in Los Angeles, man. Every school. He broke my record. And he had to go off to India, and he came back from there. He came back a changed man. And he's now heading off this weekend. We're taking him to New York to go to university there. My other son, Ryan, who's closest to me, and every time he gets upset with my mom, when my wife gets upset at him, she blames me because he's identical to me. This kid's doing it by the book, man. He's rocking it straight through. So he goes, he's getting the grades, he gets to college, he does all that. He says, Dad, I want to be a rock musician. It's like, break my heart, man. And then my littlest one, we found out he was out there causing trouble in the streets, and he was angry and all that stuff. And we found out not till he was a sophomore in high school he had dyslexia, and so he had learning troubles. And we sat with him, and we made him go to school all over the summer and learn, and he's heading off to university. And these are 4 kids that have all been in the situation that their father was, not as deep, but definitely could head there. But the grace of you people, that you people taught me, you people showed me by your actions how to be a human again. I was able to walk through that with my children and hopefully give them an opportunity. I can't tell you, I can't express what Alcoholics Anonymous means to me. It is the most important thing in my life. It has given me a life. I was an animal before you guys got a hold of me. And for the newcomers, just give yourself a chance. Just give yourself a chance. The life I have today is unbelievable. I wake up and it just cracks me up. It's like I'm employed, people talk to me. I have a wife that I still think is beautiful, and it's just, the serenity that AA has given me, I don't have to look bad anymore. My clothes fit me. My world fits me. You guys have made me part of this world, and I am forever grateful for that. Thank you for letting me share.
I'd like to thank Rudy for Chapter 5 and Curtis for the 12 traditions. Are there any Secretary's announcements?
I'm an alcoholic named Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Let's give Tommy another hand. Tommy went to Twin Towers with me. I do a panel there. I go there once a month, and I heard part of his story. The funny thing about that story is Tommy, we belong to this men's group, and he asked if anybody wanted to write this guy a letter that was in Twin Towers. And I said, well, hey, I do a panel there. Who is he? And he says, well, he'd been to this meeting a couple times. He gave me his name, and I went there, and it turned out the guy in Twin Towers had been the vice president of the sales of the company I still work for, post-production company in Los Angeles. And I let this guy, tell a story one time, and he'd had it all. He had $1 million house, yacht, and had lost it all. He's been been here to the Marina Center many times. I don't know where he is today, but hopefully, he's got some recovery. I think he'd even gone to work for Tom, but yeah, it was great to hear your story. Thanks. And let's give Robert a hand. Great meeting. Okay, if you have a commitment at this meeting, could you please stand? Patty, how'd we do?
Hi, Patty.
Woohoo! Money in the bank.
Jay, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jay.
And I'm filling in for Brian tonight, CSR, and more will be revealed next week.
Thank you, Jay.
I just wanted to welcome the newcomers, Rudy, Maggie, Miranda, Norma, and Curtis. And 30 days, Curtis, Brett, and Drew. 60 days, Dawn and Brandon. 90 days, Melissa. 6 months, I couldn't hear your name. Eddie. 9 months, Robert. And birthdays were Dana, Justin, and Benny Hyman.
Thanks, Kristen.
I'm Mary, I'm an alcoholic reader.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Tim.
I'm Brian. I'm your alcoholic card signer.
Brian.
Line up down the left aisle and meet me at the podium. I'll take care of your card.
Thanks, Brian. Mary.
Mary, alcoholic, I bring the water.
Thanks, Mary.
Leslie, alcoholic, seat saver.
Leslie. William, alcoholic.
Hey, William.
Hospitals and institutions is that area of Alcoholics Anonymous which takes panels into places where people can't get out. Jails, psych wards. We collect money at this meeting to take literature in so that when the people get out, they know where to come. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Okay, I guess Mike, the literature guy, didn't make it. I see no literature. How about a cleanup person? Can we get a cleanup person?
My name's Jay, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jay.
Double dipper. We can get some volunteers. We'd really appreciate it.
Let's maybe get 10 people. We got 10 people to help Jay? 5, 2, 3. Eldon. What's your name? David. Thanks, buddy. That'll be plenty. Free CD for you for helping you clean up. Also, this meeting was recorded. If you want a CD of tonight's talk or any talk, come see me afterwards, and I'll have it for you. Also, Sunday night. And I think that's enough out of me. I'll turn it back over to Robert.
This has been a regular Wednesday night speaker meeting. Thank you for coming and keep coming back. Now, after a moment of silent meditation for the alcoholic who still suffers, would Noah lead us in the Lord's Prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power,